this is my list of the top 10 movies of 2014. Your list will no doubt be different, but in my opinion, these were the top movies of the year. From enjoyment and entertainment to characters and story, these are my top movies. Fair warning that I've not seen everything, but I did see a grand total of 29 movies this year, and I'm only basing my list on the movies I have watched. And as always, this is spoiler free. So here we go. How to Train Your Dragon 2. This story surpassed its simple animation. Don't get me wrong, the animation is top notch, but the story is so beyond it. I love the way that the years have changed these characters. I mean, if you look at some of the comparison shots between the characters in the first movie and now, you'll see the physical changes as well. This story is such a step forward that at some points I forgot I was watching an animated movie. The movie that really shows the coming of age, they're pretty few and far between these days, and this movie really delivered on that premise, coming of age. So props to DreamWorks. Interstellar. Alright, this movie may not have hit the high note that most of Nolan's other movies have, but it was still a good, somewhat original movie. With great performances by McConaughey and Hathaway. It was the very human characters that carried the movie along with a visual spectacle. The plot was not as mysterious as I had hoped, which is why this movie did not make it higher on the list. But no way this wasn't going to make it up somewhere on my top 10, so here it is at number 9. Alright, Godzilla. This is the American Godzilla movie we deserved, and it has been a long time coming. Yes, F you tuna-eating lizard from the Matthew Broderick monstrosity. I'm a sucker for a good disaster movie, and this was on point. This movie is not a monster film, it really is a disaster movie. There's a death about a third in the movie that I would have liked to have not happened, and I would have had the countless scenes teasing Godzilla. They didn't really serve a whole lot. They were supposed to tease. They really just kind of infuriated the viewers, in my opinion, and I would have just taken them out altogether. But I love the way that Godzilla is portrayed as this force of nature that maintains balance in the world, and I'm thinking of all the ways the sequels can take this idea, and I find myself really looking forward to them. And any movie that makes you excited about a sequel has to make it somewhere onto a top 10 list, and here it is at number 8. I'm standing at the edge of tomorrow. Today! Yes, I immediately thought of the Saved by the Bell, the Collegers theme song. Sorry, that's just what happened. Edge of Tomorrow, thing is I'm not a big Tom Cruise fan. It's not really a secret to people who know me, but I really enjoyed this movie. Groundhog Day action movie, it was a really great idea. The explanation for why it's happening isn't very interesting, but suspend all that and take the idea and jump along for the ride. The premise of living the same day over and over again has been done many times before, but this movie does it really well. It's not showing the same thing over and over again, really. The movie only shows you what is relevant to the story and the one character who is learning and growing while the other characters remain kind of static. Tom Cruise is really the dynamic piece of the movie. And he does change from this like really snobbish type of officer to like a soldier. It was the last 30 minutes of the movie that, in my opinion, were the weakest. All in all, this is one of those movies that the plot and story really exceeds the characters, which ultimately keeps it from reaching higher on the list, but it still is pretty high up there at number 7. The Lego Movie. Alright, this movie is awesome, and yes, regardless of what you want, this song will get stuck in your head of everything is awesome. This movie is like a newer age Toy Story, which is really saying something, as Toy Story is one of my favorite films. This movie had parody, slapstick, adult, kid, every kind of humor you really could want out of this, and it works together really well. And a story that keeps everything on track while allowing the freedom to shoot off in other directions is a rare feat for any film. And this did it really well. Grade A voice performances from Will Ferrell, Liam Neeson, Morgan Freeman, Will Arnett, Alison Brie, Elizabeth Banks, and Chris Pratt. Holy crap, that's a lot of people. This movie was all-stars, from the actors to the characters themselves, with 22 Jump Street stars Channing Tatum and Jonah Hill as Superman and Green Lantern. Yes, that was them. Kobe Smulders as Wonder Woman, Billy D. Williams as Lando Calrissian, Shaquille O'Neal as himself, Dumbledore, Gandalf, Michelangelo, Abe Lincoln, Shakespeare. The appearances are great. not in your face nods to everything and really showcases the span that Lego has on pop culture. All with that little bit of heart that makes you really feel about this movie. So that's why Lego Movie landed at number 6. John Wick. Alright, I had no expectations walking into this, and I left more than satisfied with this movie. A very straightforward film about one man out for revenge against an underground criminal organization. Doesn't sound very original, but it knows what it is. This movie built up the myth of John Wick like 30 minutes before Keanu Reeves even really did a whole lot. He didn't even shoot anybody till like 30 minutes in the movie. With allusions to the past acts and reactions to his name, you knew when John Wick, you knew he was somebody who should not be messed with. And when his car is stolen and his dog is killed, that's when you really get into the corner of this guy. And that's not a plot spoiler or anything. They tell you in the trailer. It's also in the first bit of the movie, so don't freak out on me. As all a very comic book feel to the movie, and not unrealistic fight scenes built more on practical fighting style and creating distance for gun use. I liked it more than the constant martial arts that permeate other action movies these days, and it left me feeling like I did at the end of Taken with Liam Neeson. It's just a solid action movie that knows what it is and delivers with flying colors. Now we're at the tough part. I find myself switching around 4 through 2 constantly. I even broke down a rating system for each movie with in-depth scores on characters, plots, concept, delivery, acting, visuals, which I will not share with you for the sake of time. But here it is in the final order that I decided to go with. Here we go. Alright, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes. The 8th Planet of the Apes film, or the second film from the second reboot, because we can't forget the awful Tim Burton reboot, Planet of the Apes back in 2001. Rise of the Planet of the Apes was a surprise hit back in 2011, and this movie had a lot to live up to in my mind. And boy, did this sequel deliver. It moved the story forward really well, picking up exactly where I wanted it to. Many years after the human race has been decimated by the virus. I never thought I'd buy a realistic view of how apes could take over the planet until these 2 movies. And I'm just going to say it now, Andy Serkis is one of the best actors of our generation. He is the only actor that could bring Caesar to life like this. Not to be outdone by Toby Kebbell. Kebbell, I don't know how you say his name, but he played Koba. He was this tortured chimp who ended up playing the antagonist. It's a film that delivered 3 different points of view that are all valid, if not for their approach, their overarching idea of where they're standing. Again, another really great movie that achieved the rare feat of surpassing the first film. X-Men Days of Future Past. Let's be honest here, X-Men would be best delivered by Marvel Studios. It's what it is really needed to give the X-Men the adaptation they deserve, with Brett Ratner's X3 and X-Men Origins Wolverine being among 2 of the worst comic book films ever. I had no hopes when First Class was released a few years back, but that movie turned out really good, and it was mostly due to excellent performances by the cast. Now with the return of Bryan Singer, you had the best of the original X-Men, and my favorite X-Men movie, X2, are now cast with First Class, blended together perfectly in this movie. When you walk out of a film not really able to point out anything you necessarily change about it, that is a good movie. And this movie delivered on that. I even went back for a second viewing in the theaters just to make sure my initial impression was correct. And yes, the movie was in fact as good as I originally thought. So thanks Bryan Singer for coming back to the X-Men to fix the mistake made by your exit. FYI, for those who are unaware, Bryan Singer left X-Men 3 in the hands of Brett Ratner in favor for the super shitty Superman Returns movie. This goes a long way toward your redemption, pal. I'm just saying, so way to go, Singer. Captain America: The Winter Soldier. Marvel once again outdoes itself with this sequel. One of the reasons that Marvel is so successful, in my opinion, is that every movie is a new genre. It doesn't pigeonhole itself into a comic book movie. The first Captain America film was like Raiders of the Lost Ark, kind of a fun action-adventure film. This film was a political spy intrigue film. It works really well. Captain America is one of my favorite characters, and I'm glad this movie was so successful so that others can realize who Cap really is. Cap is a man from a time where things were black and white. The world we live in now is so gray, it's easy for us to lose sight of what is right and wrong. Steve Rogers is not perfect, but he represents the best qualities humanity has to offer. Chris Evans is perfect as Captain America. I no longer think of him as Johnny Storm from the super shitty Fantastic Four movies. In this film, he 100% solidifies himself as Captain America. Scarlett Johansson as Black Widow and Sam Jackson as Nick Fury also get more of a chance to shine in this film, with their characters becoming more multifaceted. The movie is as much a sequel to Avengers as it is to Captain America, the first Avenger. All around great film, in many ways surpasses the first. Guardians of the Galaxy. No way this wasn't going to make it number one on my list. Any movie I watch 5 times in the span of less than a year has to be great. It brought a lot of the sci-fi wonder that I've been missing. Much like Star Trek reboot did in 2009, this one brought back the fun sci-fi movie. And this is what we wanted from the Star Wars prequels. This really was the whole package. With great characters, Chris Pratt as Star-Lord is the best casting decision ever. And Groot and Rocket are the best since Han and Chewie. The only weakness in this movie comes from the mostly two-dimensional villain Ronan. Loki, he is not. The main characters are so great it makes up for the two-dimensional villain. I met director James Gunn at DragonCon last year, and this guy had a clear vision for what he wanted, and he stuck to his guns. No pun intended, James Gunn guns, it's not a pun. It's the year of Marvel, with Cap and Guardians being 2 of the best Marvel movies released so far. If Marvel was able to take these basically unknown characters and make the best movie of the year, just imagine what they could do if they got the rights back to X-Men and the Fantastic Four. And Sony, you need to play ball with Marvel for sure, because Amazing Spider-Man 2 was not good. I'm sorry, almost made it onto my worst list. Yes, my worst list is coming up. It's not on there, but it almost made it. I'm just saying it was that disappointing. Now I'm going to shamelessly plug my poster over on my DeviantArt account. Whichever side I decide to put it on. It's one of these sides. It's over there. Yes, that's the Guardians Firefly crossover poster, because Guardians filled the hole in my heart left vacant from the shitty Star Wars movies and the 10-year lack of Firefly. One of the first thoughts leaving the theater was Guardians and the Serenity crew should definitely meet up. I mean, 2 teams of outlaws, what could go wrong, right? So Guardians of the Verse right there, link below if you want to get a better look. Honorable mention to Night at the Museum 3 this year. It was one of the weakest Night at the Museum movies. It served as a heartfelt send-off to Robin Williams, and I had to at least mention it just because it needed mentioning. Stay tuned for my worst list, where you can finally hear me rage out on the bullshit that was released this year. But I'm going to take you out on a high note by sharing my best of 2014 poster. So here it is, the best movies, my best movies of 2014, the poster. Link below for a better look, but here it is in the video. Check it out.